Welcome everyone to the Squadcast. I think this is our fourth week. I don't know. We got a good crew today. Myself, Jason Florent, MonteXristo, Cameron Hanzo, CardGamer, Phansora, and the first time, MTuck. Welcome, gentlemen. So, for anyone who doesn't know, this is our new Master Runeterra pro team, scrim team, squad. Fucking team that plays competitively in tournaments and such. And we're going to talk about those kinds of things. All right, so just before I clicked the record button, we were starting to talk about like what the best deck is, or what decks are actually good or not good. And then I said that I think one of the big problems is that the definitions that we all use for good or tier 0 or even like tier 1, tier 2 are like different. And I think that's like where like we come into some issues with people like saying different things. So for instance, let's start with tier 0.
Yeah.
When someone says tier 0, to me that means they have no bad matchups. Like you can lose games, but like statistically speaking, you don't really have bad matchups. That's what tier 0 means to me.
Tier Fizz was tier 0, right?
It's pretty
like
accurate.
Even its worst matchup, which was Spiders, was like what 45% for it, and that's like a bad matchup, but the good players would still win that like 90% of the time. So I don't think any deck in the current format is tier 0.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think everything has a counter. How much you see that counter and how much it's allowed to be played on ladder is definitely differing for different decks, but every deck has a counter right now.
Shadawx joined us. What's up, Shadawx?
Welcome, Shadawx.
And Shadawx.
Shadawx is silent.
That's fine though.
Muted.
And muted.
Rip Shadawx. All right, well, Shadawx figures out his technical stuff. Cameron, MTuck, do one of you guys want to chime in your opinions on this topic?
Tier 0.
I think,
You go first, man. I go first.
Alright, I was gonna say for 2-0, I would generally say like worst matchups 45% is how I put it. I wouldn't say no bad matchups, but yeah, worst matchups like 45% is if that's the case for you, then I would put you at 2-0.
Yeah, I think that basically sums it, right? Like, well, if I have to say, it's like basically there's no decks that are close to the win rate that it is like right now. Like, there's still decks that has very similar win rates with some decks, so that's why I don't think it's a tier 0. Like they say, Yordle is very close. So yeah.
Cameron, did you say you think Yordles and Arms is close to tier 0?
No, I'm just saying that it's like close win, like very close win rate as some disc.
I think Sundisk is closer to tier 0 than Yordles and Arms, but that's me.
No, I'm just saying that. No, I was trying to define like what tier 0 is, and I'm just saying that if there are decks that are like close to it, then I don't think it's tier 0. Like some deck is not tier 0 because Shadowlands and like some decks are very close to it. That's what
okay. You're saying that because Sundisk and Yordles and Arms are sitting both up here, and every other deck in the meta is like sitting here. That these two, you can't have a tier 0 deck because a tier 0 deck has to be above everything
be like
else.
This. Yeah,
I got you.
Okay, I see.
Do you not think you could have two 2-0 decks? Because I would say you can have two 2-0s.
Yeah, that's also true. I think you can also. I think there's been Magic formats where that's been a thing. Where like the two decks like beat everything else and then just go like 50-50 into each other. Pretty sure that's been a thing.
I mean, I think we've had that in Runeterra. I mean, the quintessential deck we refer to as the tier 0 deck, TF is, right? It was right next to the Aphelios Temple monstrosities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, lots of people would argue that Aphelios Temple was tier 0 as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know
I would say I'd put Aphelios as the second, like old Aphelios as the second best deck that's ever existed. Like I think both the best and the second best deck that ever existed were in the same meta.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd agree.
So I guess like, so like that's like tier 0, right? But like, what's the difference between tier 0 and tier 1 then? Because that's kind of the next question, right?
Tier 1 is the deck that you build your lineup around it because it is just... Tier 0 is like breaking the game, right? There's something clearly wrong with this deck. It is just way too strong. Tier 1 is like, this deck is the best deck in the format, undoubtedly, or it's one of the best decks in the format, and it's what I want to center my lineup around, either building around it or countering it, which often doesn't work out super well.
Okay, so
Interesting.
like what? Because I wouldn't.
I mean,
I don't
okay.
think of lineups when I think about tiers.
So, like, the thing with current meta, do people think that Azir, like, I think that Sundisk has an inflated win rate. It's only been around for, like, a week or two, and it's still coming off of that initial high. So it's a little hard to gauge, because, like, when you have these lineups, you have to either build around or counter. Sundisk has an inflated win rate that, like, it might seem like that's happening when it shouldn't be if the meta eventually settles down.
I'd say it has an inflated play rate. I'm not sure if it has an inflated win rate
Was it
because it was like
Play
very
rate.
quick.
Yeah,
that...
I mean play rate.
Okay, yeah. I'd agree that it has an inflated play rate. Win rate wise, I think if anything, it has a deflated win rate due to its play rate.
Yeah. Yes. No, I'm more saying that, like, part of why it seems so strong is just because you see a lot of it. And it is strong, but part of that's just because, like, it's warping the meta so much because of how prevalent it is.
Would it be warping the meta as much if it was less strong, though? Like,
No.
yeah,
Well, okay, well, I mean, like, Poros did that for, like, a few days, and then it stopped.
Poros was weird. People were, like, infatuated with Poros, though. They were like, Poros are so good! Ah! And then 3 days later, they were like, no. It's just...
Like, to
And it
be
was-
fair, the same thing here, because, like, Sundisk has been a deck that's existed for its entire lifespan, been bad for all of it, and people who want it to be good are so happy right now that it's finally playable.
It's true.
Yeah,
I knew
I think
Poros
to
was
some
bad.
level,
I also knew Poros was bad.
yeah, Porous was bad. But I think what
Yeah,
Phansora is saying is
Poros-
like,
Poros had a purpose, though,
Go ahead.
right? It did
They
do
did.
it did do what you wanted it to do in beating those
Mhm.
control lineups, right?
And it was great the first few days because everyone wanted to play with 6-mana Vengeance. But once people were like, hey, let's put away 6-mana Vengeance, Poros became not so great.
yeah, I think what like Phansora is getting at is that like the play rate of Sundisk is inflated due to like the novelty of it. Like
Mhm.
it's definitely not a what is it, like a 15% play rate deck because of how good it is. Like 10% play rate makes sense. That's like where it should be based off its like how good it is. But a lot of it is just the novelty of like, oh, this is a stream of Sundisk and I've been wanting to play this forever, and Timmy now gets to be Timmy. Like that's a lot of it's that, and because of that inflated play rate, it looks more prevalent than it should. It warps the meta a bit more than it necessarily should, and all that kind of stuff. So I think that some of that does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I gotta agree with that. I think that's definitely an unarguable fact. Like you said, everybody's so excited that they finally get to have their hands on this deck that's been continuously buffed patch after patch, and like now it's just so strong. But we were talking about like defining tier 1, and you guys said that you didn't necessarily agree with my definition of tier 1. So how would you define tier 1?
To me, it's just the best decks in the format.
I don't know if it necessarily pans out, because, like, let's say we have a format where the best decks cap out at 51, like, all decks are between 51 and 49, I wouldn't necessarily break it up into, like, a tier 1 if the best deck is only beating you out by that much.
Okay.
So, I'm gonna take a bit of a experimental approach to like defining the tier system. I have like a sociology background, so I'm very much exploring like everything in the context we're looking at it in. So I think the tier system is super just moldable, and it's just a way to organize things to the context you're talking about. And I think that's a big reason why people have such a hard time like being very accurate when saying like, oh, this is tier 1, this is tier 0, because depending on the certain meta or field you're talking about, like Phansora mentioned, between like 51 and 49, using like tier 0, 1, 2, and 3 isn't a super accurate way to break up that meta game. And just like talking about tier 0, 1, 2, and 3 in a ladder setting is going to differ from a tournament setting and in the field and all of that. So I think that you can't really set a like universal tier system, but when you come to a conversation, it's probably a good idea to try and outline what you're going to say is tier 0, tier 1, tier 2 when you're talking about it. And I think we could do that here and then have a pretty good conversation about that.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to disagree with you saying that tier 1's not the best decks. It's just like what CardGamer was saying, that like it's not universally applicable.
it's definitely a contextual subject, and I think
Yeah.
I know, like, in the Wombat server we've been talking more about, like, this is a playable deck, this is a playable with intent, this is unplayable. You know, like, you can play this. Drizoth is very big on this. I'm sure you guys have all spoken to him at some point. This deck is playable. You can put it in a lineup at any point. You can run it on ladder at any point. This deck is playable only when you're looking to target something, or like when you have a reason behind why you want to play it. And this is a deck you should never touch. And like an example of a tier 1 deck is Yordles and Arms. You can pretty much always run that. It has pretty good matchups across the board. It's never going to get super hard targeted, and you're not upset bringing it in any lineup pretty much. An example of a tier 2 deck is kind of like Echo Zillion. You're playing it because you find it novel. You're playing it because you feel that your opponents don't know how to play against it. You're playing it because you think that you are just better on it than anybody else. You're playing it because you think it has a really good matchup into a control deck, something like that. And then unplayable would be, I don't even know what's an unplayable deck right now. Anything with Udyr in it.
Scargrounds?
Yeah, Scargrounds, I guess, would be. Is Scargrounds completely unplayable right now? I guess it is. I haven't seen it in ages.
I think it's less playable than Skaith's Pile, which does feature a singular Udyr.
That's for the novelty, though. That doesn't actually count, right?
But it does have an Udyr. I don't see a Scargrounds in that pile.
You're right.
Udyr's got to
That
take his
is
wins
true.
where he can.
Hey, apparently he's getting reworked, so both in LoL and in LOR. I've heard some whispers that he's getting some changes.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy that he's getting changed and like he just came out. Like that's a pretty big oof.
I think it was intentional, just based on the fact that they I'm assuming when they originally started designing Udyr, they weren't aware of where he was going to end up in the league rework, but they knew that he was on the league rework thing. So they had designed him to be like this kind of blank slate champion. And then the moment they started figuring out what they wanted to do with the league update, they started working on this redesign. Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense to me that they would have a redesign so readily available for this, right? Like, maybe I'm on some copium with this, but I don't know.
I don't know about necessarily being so planned out. Maybe they just did like a hotfix release of Udyr, because like considering the package they went with, there is some synergy with pinging the enemy nexus, but like it makes more sense both like lore wise as well as the package you come with to have some like stance to change synergy, like a Chief Knock Attack synergy or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of patches and reworks, the reworks are not as what we had kind of expected. They are not like like Garen. Nope. They're not like. Let me give an example that's just definitely something that's not getting touched. Let's go with Twisted Fate. They're not like, oh, hey, so that red card, blue card, gold card, like now Twisted Fate like hits something for 2 when it comes to the play. Like a rework, you know what I mean? Like it just the champ does a different thing. It's not like that.
Is it more like pick a card, draws 3, 8 cards, draw to level up type change?
Yeah. Yeah, or like, oh, now there's a 4th card. Or like, something like that.
So they're building onto the champion's existing base rather than trying to completely change it. It's not so much as a rework as a build up or like an addition, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's like closer
Yeah.
from what I remember and what I know of anyways.
That makes
it
a
almost
lot of
sounds like-
sense. I was kind of speculating it was going in that direction when we didn't get champions like Yasuo and Callista and Katarina, who seem more like they have more fundamental issues. Not so much they're kind of like just a bit power crept like LeBlanc and Garen.
Mhm.
They're not awful. It's just why are you playing these instead of other options you have?
Yeah, and I think they mentioned also like thematic, like having them feel more like the champion. They also looked at stuff like that, not just that like, oh, this one's bad or this one's doesn't do something that's meaningful. That's like another thing that they're looking at to try to I don't know, fix or whatever.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. Changes our speculation a little bit. Are we done with the tiers conversation? Does anybody else have more to add to that, or should we just move on to this our speculation style from now on? What do we think is coming with the next patch? What do you guys want to see?
I mean, that kind of throws out your theory a bit,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Yeah. I want to see more new cards. The ones they released weren't that great. I've actually been surprisingly impressed with Cosmic Wonder in Peak. It works really well, but I think it has been very unimpressive everywhere else. But I think they're cool, and I'm really interested to see it. in combination with the champion updates, because I feel like a lot of these champions have very middling support, and it would be very interesting to see them get a lot more like better in line with the power level of cards now support.
Yeah, it is interesting because the cards that were released are like they were they were almost intentionally bad because they were filling niches that the regions didn't have, so they weren't meant to be like, you know, the best cards, because then like you want regions to have weaknesses, so you just want them to be less extreme. So it'd be interesting to see like what they do moving forward with these like balancing cards, basically cards that they're putting in there to more for the balance of regions and things like that than for new content per se. If they continue like filling holes for regions, or if they start like maybe emphasizing, you know, the strengths of regions or whatever, like, because then they could have cool like cards that are powerful opposed to what we got, which was weak cards to fill niches.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the weak cards to field niches things. I think your second idea is better, MTux. I think that giving regions better tools to work towards their strengths makes a lot more sense, just because of the way the game works. Although this could all change with Runeterra champs whenever those come, because those are going to throw a complete wrench in the gears, right? But I think part of the dynamic of Legends of Runeterra is that you have to go into a different region to fill the gaps, right? Like, if you want a strike spell, you got to be either in Demacia or, to a lesser degree, Noxus, right? Noxus has a couple strike spells. They're not as good as Demacia's, but they are there and they are applicable. So, like, a Shuriman deck, why would you play Desert's Wrath when you could just, or Desert Duel, not Desert's Wrath, that's a different one, when you could just go into Shurima Demacia and play something like Sivir, right? So, I don't know.
And I get that, and it's why these cards will always have a hard time seeing play, but I don't know. Like, I like having them in the game.
I think
like,
it's
it
good.
doesn't take a lot. It's an option. And I mean, I see some of the cards being used to great success. They're not the great decks. Like, we can use the Wombat tier system. They're not the just playable decks. They're good in some of the playable with intent decks because they're stuck in certain region combos. Like, I was saying, like, Cosmic Wonder has been great in Peak.
Mhm.
There's been so many games where I'm against like more aggressive mid-rangey decks and I get to play Peak on 5, and just next turn I go, okay, I'm fine to the open attack. I can stun the two biggest things. Like, I was watching Roji stream and he was talking about how great Desert Duel has been into Talia Malphite, because you can't really run strike spells, but you have these big bodies that, you know, you want to use to remove stuff, and now you have a bit of interaction.
Yeah.
So I do like having them, even though I kind of agree with what has been said that they're not super playable, but they do get some use, which is cool. And hopefully, as they do it more, we can hit a bit better balance of stuff that is playable, but still isn't very oppressive and just makes regions have no weaknesses.
Yeah, I like that idea. I think that's a good one.
Yeah, I think they were afraid of like going too far with it because you don't want to end up in the regions not having weaknesses.
Yeah.
The other aspect, kind of what Monte was getting at, was the reason I like the idea of emphasizing strengths is because when you emphasize weaknesses, it's akin to like spiders putting vengeance in their deck to deal with big threats. Like, just do your powerful thing very powerfully. Don't try to do these things that your deck's not good at weakly. Like, that's the issue with printing bad cards that fill niches, is you don't want your deck to do niches poorly. You want them to do good things strongly.
Don't you turn into an arms race then, though? Like, isn't it just like, oh, no, this one gets a little bit linear and better, and this one gets a little linear and better, and this one gets a little linear and better, and this one gets a little linear and better?
To a degree, but I think that's why you got to be careful with.
Yeah, but that's going to happen.
I think that's fine.
I think that's going to happen regardless, given that Riot is the way they're printing cards is they're always better than the previous set.
They almost have to be, right? If they print a bunch of bad cards like they just did, we're all just like, fucking who cares? Like, there's almost nothing worse than
exactly.
that, right? But, yeah.
Yeah, I think the arm race is inevitable, which is why like the conversation around rotations always comes up, of like rotations being inevitable, or else you end up like Yu-Gi-Oh down the road. So that's kind of more into the power creep question, which is a whole other topic. But
do you guys think rotations are inevitable? Because I don't. I think in a digital format like this, you don't really need a rotation. You can just buffer nerf a card, and then it's out of the format for a little bit if you don't want to see it. It's like a pseudo rotation. It's the same thing.
I mean, the one argument against that is people who like to play the old decks pre-nerf just simply can't play that anymore in any format. Like that's part of like Hearthstone has like the wild standard split. I can talk to Hearthstone less so Magic, but part of that is you can play all these wacky combos that if they were consistent and able to exist in a forever format, it would be oppressive. But in another format which has like other broken things, sure, but like being able to experiment with all these old cards with mixing in the new cards, it's more fun for the player. It feels bad to lose something that you had.
True. Look at Fiora, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like Fiora's the perfect example of that. How many people are upset that they just can't really play Fiora anymore?
And like they can't even just play that in like a friendlies, just for fun. It just doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, so that's a really good point. Like Magic is like that, right? They have 35 years worth of cards, and they have 20 years worth of cards, and they have 10 years, 5 years, 2 years. And like a lot of those decks that are ancient, like people have been playing them for like 20 years or 30 years or some of these decks, like they've been around for forever. And so, yeah, if we were just nerfing them all the time or banning them or whatever, yeah, that would kind of suck. I don't really thought about doing it that way. And also you just end up with a bunch of bad cards after a while that just like never see the light of day. So it's almost like, what's the point?
Well, they don't have to stay nerfed forever, right? They would be unnerfed eventually.
Bring them back.
It's like, I fully expect them to rebuff Fiora in a patch or two. I'm surprised they haven't already, to be honest. But that was like kind of what I thought they were doing when they took her out of the format, just saying, well, our new Demacian champions in Jarvan and Shyvana haven't been seeing any play. Fiora is kind of the only viable one. Let's just take her out and open up a bit of space for that. And that worked, right? After we saw the Fiora nerf, Jarvan and Shyvana both saw a decent bit of play right after that. So I don't know. I don't think that necessarily rotation is the answer. I don't think it's like off the table either. But I think there's a lot of space that they can experiment to try different things.
Yeah, I was mostly just saying that like the idea of like nerfing and buffing to keep changing it doesn't necessarily appeal to a casual player who wants to play the cards that they have. So that might outweigh, like in terms of player base size, what Riot would do.
Yeah, that's
just because it would be appealing to fewer people.
Also, one thing just worth noting, I think Ruben has even talked about this in his streams where he talks about balance a little bit, is it's hard to like buff and nerf cards in Runeterra compared to a lot of other games, just purely based on the scale that they operate on. Mm-hmm. Like we're going from like small numbers, like generally single digit numbers we're switching between, and whole numbers. Like you can't do just like very small changes like you can in a game like Yu-Gi-Oh! If say like we were online in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where you can just change like 50 attack points out of a scale of thousands, right? Or like a game like League of Legends or TFT where you can just tweak little numbers. Like you have to make big changes. So it's just a lot harder to do that in a game like this. Not saying that Riot can't do it, but it's just it seems a bit less feasible.
That's a great point. Like look at like what's the 3/3 that makes the for Demacia?
Vanguard Sergeant.
Vanguard Sergeant. So I got 3/3, like it's almost no play. Now it sees some play. As a 3/4, it was like, oh my god, too good. Bat down to 3/3, it's like no. It's like that one like hit point of toughness makes like such a huge difference. And yeah, same with like 1 mana, right? Like something goes from 4 mana to 5 or 4 to 3 or whatever. Huge difference. Same with power. Yeah, that's a really good point. I also like rotation because having multiple formats gives us more ways to play the game to keep it fresh. Because that's one of the problems that we have, right? We have like best of 1 ladder. Fucking it. It's like all we got. It's like,
you guys know
Jesus
about that
Christ.
cool expedition game mode that's going
we have expeditions for another month.
They're being retired. I miss Singleton. Just give me Singleton back. You can build the Singleton deck. You just can't play it in friendlies.
Right.
You cannot play Singleton in friendlies, and I don't understand why. The client recognizes that the Singleton format exists. It just won't let you do it.
They just hate fun. I don't. There's a lot of weird things. I think a lot of it. I was talking about this on the other podcast. I think a lot of it's technical. I think a lot of the reasons we don't have certain things, like look at Cross Shard. They're like, hey, that'd be awesome. They made it. And they're like, hey, we can't fucking build other things now because this is breaking it, so we have to get rid of it. And I think they're running into a lot of issues. Like for instance, it was like, why don't we see more in-client tournaments, whatever? It's like, oh, I found out that like there's a team that like works on seasonals on like that client or like that part of it, and like there's a team. I don't know how big the team is. It's probably small, but like remember the last like 3 seasonals? It's broken like every single time, and there's people actively working on it. So yeah, I think technical is like one of the big reasons that we don't have a lot of things. But yeah, more ways to play the game, man. We need more fucking ways to play the game. That'd be so nice to be able to rotate through formats. Like, oh, this seasonal is limited, or this seasonal is all the cards, or this seasonal is singleton, or like whatever. Just changing things up. Like having more than one format means that you don't have to have the one format we have be healthy and like fun all the fucking time.
Yeah, it would also just like create a lot more interesting. Like, depends on what type of person you are. If you're a spike, you might not like it as much. But like being thrown into a ton of different formats, like for a seasonal, and have to like go from ground zero knowledge, like totally new rule set. You get half the cards. Good luck. Like that you're starting from ground zero. Like you got 2 months to figure out a lineup for seasonals. Like that's exciting for a lot of players.
I love that. We're about to have that, by the way. Strap yourselves in because this patch is big. I was a little concerned that they were giving us this information early, and I was like, "This seems like we'd have an unfair advantage." Like, I know if I was on the outside, I'd be kind of pissed. But then after I saw it, I was like, "I have no fucking idea." It was there's no way.
Honestly,
go ahead, Curry.
Yeah, like seeing it does a little bit. It's not negligible, but after it's been out for like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks before seasonals, it's fine. The only thing you have like some slight advantage for probably is like RA, because you get to think about things sooner, so you can maybe cut out some things you might not want to test. But RA is like not the biggest tournament, and I mean it's 1 week.
Imagine testing for RA.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, imagine trying to win. It's real bad. Who'd want to do that?
Well, this is a problem. We got the easy pod last time, so we just phoned it in. We lost like 1 or 2 of the rounds that I didn't show up. And it just coasted into the playoffs, no big deal. And then again, I didn't show up, and we lost the playoffs. So I think there's definitely some overconfidence on our side. Shoot, what was I going to say, though? Oh, yeah. Okay, so the patch is going to be big. It's going to be a whole new meta. 2.5 weeks to get 3 decks together, a lineup for seasonals. It's fucking nuts. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be alright.
Go ahead, Monty.
I'm looking forward to it. I have no idea what I would be on tomorrow. Like, if seasonals were tomorrow, I don't know what I would play right now, because to be honest with you guys, I haven't had much time to play the game in the past week. I've been sick all weekend, so there goes. I don't celebrate Easter because I'm Orthodox, so my Easter's this weekend, but I got to burn my entire weekend doing nothing, laying in bed, so I have no idea what I would play, and I'm looking forward to the fact that there's a shakeup, because it means that nobody's going to have any idea what they're going to play, and I'm going to be back on equal footing.
I mean, like, aren't we basically 2.5 weeks from the previous patch, and like, meta hasn't settled yet, and it's going to be a bigger shakeup.
It's fairly settled. I think people are still just overlooking some of the good decks, like you said, because MonteXristo is just so wildly popular, because Timmy is excited.
Sure.
But
yeah,
I think everybody knows what the good decks are and like what's playable, what's not. I don't think... Are there any hidden gems still? Like, do you guys think there are hidden gems of this meta that haven't been discovered or haven't been looked at?
I think there's stuff that people are underplaying and people would realize are a bit more valuable and worthwhile to play. And I think this is even true of like decks people know are good. Mm-hmm. But I mean, people just, they don't care to play it. It has like not the matchup against MonteXristo or a deck that they're seeing that they want. And I mean, they can't be asked. Like, it's a long season and like the meta's going to shift again. I feel like a lot of people are just kind of like, whatever, man, it's grind time next week.
Yeah.
Because like that's how I feel. And that's how it seems like a lot of other people feel. And just judging by the decks people are playing, I mean, like, where's the Yordle arms? Like, there's a lot of Sun Disc, but like, where's the Yordle arms? Where's the other decks that people should be playing? Where's the Pantheon? Like,
I think people are just bored of those decks, right?
Yeah, they just don't want to play it. Yeah. It doesn't matter that much right now. Like, in a week and a half, it matters. That's when like it hits the fan. And I think the meta obviously won't be perfectly solved in 2.5 weeks, but I think we'll be a lot more settled in 2 weeks after the next patch, because there's a reason to settle. There's a reason for people to really like optimize and figure things out.
Okay, I got a question for all of you. How much is it entered into your mind at all that like you are currently qualifying for Worlds on this ladder?
I'm not. I'm not.
Yeah. It seems like in general the community, like I forget about it most of the time, and I'm like I really want to do well, and I also forget that it's important and I should pay attention to it. So I feel like in general people are probably giving me about like 0 fucks about like I don't know the ladder right now. I'm sure as soon as the patch hits and you're trying to get that 7-2 and you're trying to get some points for Worlds, it'll be great. But like just qualifying for Worlds doesn't seem to be like that big of a deal. Whereas last year when it got dropped, people went nuts. You guys remember BBG and like a bunch of other people just fucking racing up the ladder, playing like nonstop. It was like, gotta finish first, gotta qualify for Worlds. It was a big deal. And this year it's like, I don't know. I guess because it's like, when is it? What's the prize pool? That might have something to do with it.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think it's also that we just like we're in the first seasonal of it, so like a lot of people will end up that are like thinking they could qualify via ranked ladder. Because like first off, you got of the like 1,000 or so master players currently, how many of them think they have a realistic shot of qualifying through 2 Worlds via ranked ladder? Like sub 50, I would say, like 100 to 150, 100 to 50, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
So of those 100 to 50 people, give or take, like probably half are sitting here going, it's the first seasonal. I've got 4 to 5 to go, like, or 4 to go probably, if they do it like last year.
I think there's going to be 3.
Even if we account, like, even if we say there's 200 people who think they have a shot at Worlds, right, in the Americas server, how many of those people are then going to go, I'm just going to spike a seasonal in top 4, right? And they're just not going to give any verdict to ladder. They're just going to put all their eggs in one basket and say, well, I don't like ladder. I don't want to deal with it. I'm just going to go into the seasonal. I'm going to do well there. I'm going to collect my seasonal points. Like, you can spike a seasonal by top 4ing. You can collect your seasonal points as well, right? Like, just by competing in the seasonal and getting your rounds there. Even making top 32 gives you points for that as well. And then, so that probably knocks out, 75 people, give or take, maybe? So, yeah, I think... And the other thing, last year, they retroactively gave points for the first season, 2 seasons.
2 seasons, yeah.
2 seasons. So I think that put the pressure on a lot of people as well to start like really going for ladder aggressively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
As far as number of seasons, I think I wouldn't be surprised if we still end up having 5 total seasons. From the perspective of, remember last year we were like rushed for time for seasonals, and they ended up cutting seasons down to like 6 weeks. Like we had 6-week seasons. I would not be surprised if they do that again. Like push us down to 6-week seasons, have Worlds in like November, and like do it that way. I would not.
No, bro. We're doing 3-month seasons now. Okay, what are you not paying attention?
yeah, go with the line.
Yeah, true.
This season was weird because Yip retired, right? Like he stepped away from the game, so they had to internally restructure. It definitely wasn't planned for this season, or at least I don't think it was planned for this season to drag on. I think that it was a side effect of Yip deciding to pursue other avenues, and then they said, "Well, we have to rejig our entire inner workings, and we can't actually put the focus into the game that we need because we got to fix ourselves first," and that's why we got delayed.
Yeah, Jason, what you think?
You don't agree, Jason? Because we had a different date in the seasonal client. They had a different date plan.
So
For like
this is my take on it. 1, Yip was let go. He didn't leave. 2, I think they even said actually the reason they pushed seasonals back is because they were having troubles with the patch or with the new cards. Like they just couldn't get them out in time, and that's why they had to push seasonals back.
Yip was let go. Are you leaking info you're not supposed to leak now?
Nope, this is completely my hot take. I think of it this way. 1, I worked at a company where one of the founders wanted to leave because he hated the CEO, and we told everyone that, you left for family reasons. 2, Yip said in his tweets that the month before when he recorded the video if only he had known then that would be the last video he would record. So like he didn't know he was leaving then. You do not leave a position of that importance as a CEO. You don't just like, hey, I gave my 2 weeks notice. Peace, bitches. 1, that's very unprofessional. 2, if you love something, which sure he did, you want to hand it off properly and make sure there's a nice transition. 3, I'm going to go be with my family is like one of the oldest things in the book. You know what's good for a family? Super high paying, cushy corporate jobs tend to be real good for your family. So that's my take. Four, if Riot was if Legends of Runeterra was in a fantastic place, okay, I'd be like, yeah, you know what? I'd be willing to say, but like, I've been waiting for a fucking shakeup. Waiting. I thought maybe more people would come in or more money or someone was getting the fucking kick out. Because like, what's real? March must have been like.
Counterpoint. Most CEOs in their position don't take paternity leave. He had a child. He took paternity leave. He clearly cares about his family more than most. 2, when he was on paternity leave, lore and balance was in the worst state it ever was. I don't think that's arguable. I think the moment he came back, we did get that shakeup with Worlds, which was kind of because it was 4 days before the Worlds patch or whatever. That was ridiculous, but it was a shakeup that was needed, and it was nerfs that needed. And yeah, that's my points. I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're wrong. But we can sit here and debate whether he was fired or stepped away all we want. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Things changed. We got a shakeup. The game does look to be progressing in a better direction than it has been. So I look forward to the future. Oh, also, we did get informed that they brought in entirely new people, both for POC and for live design.
From like other parts of the company?
No, I think they hired an entirely new team for POC. Or at least in part. And then
the whole company has been on like a huge, like lots of people coming in, lots of people going out. They just had right before Yip conveniently left. The week before that was a company-wide meeting from the top down. So this is like when the leaders of Riot talk to the rest of the company and get reports and lay out what the fuck the company is doing for the rest of the year and everything for a whole week. And then right after that, all of these huge changes started happening. Lots of people started leaving. Lots of people started coming on. So obviously, you know, that's tied into it some as well.
Yeah, I think I was going to say, kind of to Monty's point, from Worlds kind of to when Yip left, just about the game was getting just worse. Like, you'd hit like a tiny bit jump, like hope, and then the next patch just ruined everything. And then you'd get a little hope, and then the next patch just ruined everything. And that happened like from Worlds, basically to like January, and then from January forward, we've been like not even January, it's like February is when it happened. Yeah, February. From February forward, we've been like going in positive directions, and it's been getting like better and better and better. It's not good yet. It's like right there though. It's like almost good.
I've been happy with the game for a while, but
Who are you?
I'm the minority. I complain the least. I didn't even have a problem with
good on you.
Hush. So
I don't know, man. The nerve of you to be content on the internet of all places. We're supposed to manufacture anger here. How else are we supposed to drive up engagement?
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? No, to be fair though, to be absolutely fair, Riot do good thing, I say good thing. Riot do bad thing, I say bad thing. Like I'm pretty fucking fair.
Yeah.
Like even today when I was bashing them, I will say like, you know, they're having technical problems, like whatever. But also I was saying how there's a new Pokemon client that came out. It's like, I don't know, the Magic Arena for Pokemon or whatever. And apparently it's being beta tested only in Canada. So I was like, oh, cool. I want to try this. I never played the game, didn't know anything about it. Want to take a look. And yeah, it's the fucking digital card game, but like fucking compared to Legends of Runeterra, like nah. Like not even close. Not even remotely close. And so what I was saying is like, you know, we take it for granted how fucking beautiful and amazing the game is and intricate and all these just little like the little voice lines and the little like just the little fucking things that are happening on the map and stuff that like you just totally take for granted and don't notice and stuff. Like they've built a beautiful thing. It's absolutely gorgeous. Could things be better? Yes.
Like the best quality of life thing, the little Oracle's Eye.
Yeah.
I don't think any other card game has that, and it's such a good quality of life thing.
Yeah, and
just being able to see when you have stuff on the stack and just being able to see how it plays out. Like obviously you can do it in your head, but it's just so convenient. And I don't think any other like CCG has that.
Not even close. And even the damage numbers that they put in last patch, those were huge. Just as a caster, I don't have to do any mental math anymore. It's just right there on the screen for me the moment somebody puts an attack up. I know exactly where it's going. I can't miss a lethal because it's showing me. Like, it's really nice. Like, they definitely have given us a lot of quality of life stuff with this game, and they didn't have to. They really didn't. Well, maybe they did, because there's a lot of stuff that doesn't work intuitively. But
Yeah.
Does anyone like not use the new effects and still just uses the eye every time? Like, I understand you
Yes.
can't while you're casting, but like I see the effect and I see the numbers pop up and I'm like, okay,
Ignore
that
them.
says 0, but like what does the eye say?
I still hover the eye
Yeah.
every single turn. I do.
I don't pay attention to that stuff at all. Like, I remember I was playing a game and someone was like, "Oh, didn't you see like the cracks? It was gonna die or something," and I was like, "Oh, no." Like, I just never noticed.
I just do it incessantly, and I just like. There's people out there who don't though, because there are people who like play a card that doesn't change anything, and they just let it go through.
Hey, it happens to the best of us, okay?
Not if you're checking every like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Well, it's habitual, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I check because I used to play League, right? And I always have to be doing
Right.
something when I'm on my screen. I gotta be clicking. Even Hearthstone, the board was clickable 24/7. There's nothing to click in lore, so it's just hover the eye. Or I guess you can click your Guardian, but like seeing Earth get
There's
hit with a
boards.
fish.
Buy
Yeah.
one of the clickable boards, bro.
I like my
Jason,
beach
I'm
board.
poor.
Why doesn't my beach board click? How hard would it be to give me a
That's-
little splash?
That's a tragedy. Or like like sand
Yeah.
and splash.
I don't know.
Like, oh, come on.
I don't
Yeah,
like
that
the
broke
other
my
boards.
heart.
I like the beach board. It's got the best music. It's got the best vibe. I don't know.
See,
I'm at
Mon-
home on the beach.
Monty, the trick as a former League player as well, you just mouse through your hands. You just see the cards go up and you just do the wave.
Yep.
That's what I do the entire time I'm
I do
playing.
that
just
too.
mouse.
Yeah.
Yep.
I look back at one of my VODs for Fight Night one time, and all I see is myself going, we like through my cards.
And that's the kind of
What am
stuff
I
you
thinking?
notice.
I don't know what I'm thinking.
That's the kind of stuff you notice immediately, but like your chat, like either notices it and they're like, "Why is he doing that? What the heck? That's so weird," or they never clue into it the entire time. But the moment you're
Yes.
watching your VOD, you're like, "Shit, why am I doing that? I look like an idiot."
You guys like ever just like go to a card, open the card art, and then like get rid of the text, but like just to do the clicking action, less so to look at it?
All the time, just a click.
You just go in and out, in and out.
I do that playing against.
Yeah, look at all that. Look at all that stuff that like that this game has that other games don't have. Like the eye, the card art, the thing with the hand. Being able to grab all your units and slam them into play all
That's
at
so
once.
satisfying.
So satisfying. Yeah, like who thinks of that shit? It's so good. It's so fucking good. And that's where a lot of my frustration comes from. So they nailed it. They made the fucking like I don't know what I want to say perfect game, but like they crushed making this fucking game. And a lot of other stuff is like not so good, like fucking competitive or just building out more stuff to do. I guess PvE is a thing now. What do you guys think? Do you guys think Path of Champions? What is it called? Path of Champions.
Champions.
I think so.
Yeah, I may or may not have when we were they were showing us the patch. They were like, "Oh, this card is for Path of Champions." I was like, "Path of what?" And everybody laughed. I felt bad. Do you think people are still playing it in high numbers? Is it still crushing regular fucking ladder? Which, by the way, they said all other forms of Runeterra combined. I was like, what other forms? How many people do you think were playing Expedition? You're getting rid of it. Like, there's nothing else.
I mean, Path of Champions is like the Arcane game mode, right? Like, that's why it's the most played game mode, right? Like,
Arcane game.
I don't know. What is that? I don't know.
like I mean, it's
Like
a
the
bunch of
series.
people were really high on the whole League IP off of Arcane, and then Path of Champions is a really friendly way for people to get into card games and stuff, play with the Arcane characters, do wacky stuff, not worry about knowing how to actually play the game, and just kind of like mess around with the IP. And I think it
That Arcane, yes.
drew in a lot of players because of that. And it's like a free to play game on your phone. It's like mobile friendly.
Are we talking
I
about
mean,
Path now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a lot of us don't play it. I mean,
I
I would
play
be interested in.
I have fun with Path.
Monty-
Who are you?
I don't know. I enjoy Path. I don't play it religiously, but like it's a better way to kill time than a lot of other things. And like
You're
what I
supposed to be grinding
the
ladder.
game.
What are you doing?
So
You like the game and play Path. Why is he on this call?
my issue with Path of Champions is there's nothing about it that draws me in over other like games in that genre. Like if I want to play something like that, I'd rather play Inscription or Slay the Spire
Yeah, that's
or whatever other one.
This-
It's
Yeah.
it's free to play and it's not bad.
I
I'm
like that
excited to
it's
see
league
where it
champs,
goes.
right? The fact that it's
Mhm.
league
That's
stuff
really
is
cool.
that's the novelty of it, right? Especially to somebody
Yeah.
that's been playing League for 10 plus years, which is what a lot of the people that have been drawn into Path have done. I introduced a friend to Legends of Runeterra last year. I sat with him and I spent like a good 2, 3, maybe 4 hours playing spiders with him. And like you can only play spiders so long. He enjoyed it, but like if you're not a card gamer and you don't really have like an affinity for these style of games, why are you going to continue to play the game unless your friends are like really actively pushing you? He stopped playing the game for about 6 months, but then he started babysitting his nephew and he can't commit to a league game when he's babysitting a child, but Path of Champions is perfect. He gets to mess around with the league IP characters in a different way. It's fun. It's exciting. You get to do big, powerful combos. Sure, it's not Slay the Spire levels of difficulty or intricacy, but it'll get there, hopefully. And it is, again, league IP, which is a huge novelty to a ton of people.
Yeah. I think you were up when I was saying this, but like one of the reasons it's so played is like it's the Arcane game mode, right?
Mhm.
Like a bunch of people, like you get to go in and mess around and have fun with the Arcane champs and do the Arcane storyline, and like it's a good time. And I'm with you. Like I don't care for Path of Champions at all right now, but I don't want to trash talk it. I'll make a joke every once in a while because like haha funny POC joke. But like I want it to be good. And I mean I have faith in Riot to make a game that is as appealing as Slay the Spire. But it just isn't there yet.
Yeah, I don't have any issues. Like, I want it to be there. I want all the things, like best of 1, best of 3, fucking Path of Champion. My problem, or it's not like a problem, but an issue is that like I think like basically like why do we see nothing from Worlds until like now? It's because it all went to Path of Champions.
It's just disappointing that it's outshining like ranked competitive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, I like what I'm really worried about is that this whole narrative of like people like competitive didn't work. Like, let's make this PvE. I'm like, why did you try competitive? The fuck? Like you were like, hey, here's seasonals and like, oh, what single elimination isn't good? Oh, okay, here's like a 9-round one and then like a Worlds and then like, oh, we're done here now.
I don't know where that
Like,
narrative...
what are you talking about?
Where's that narrative coming from, though? Because they have been so on the record about it's different teams. They're getting separate extra funding for the Path of Champions stuff. Like, I was having a conversation with a dev in DMs earlier yesterday, and we literally talked about this, and he says, yes, it's a separate team. They've gotten their own funding. Like, I don't know. They've been saying this since the start, but people seem to think that just because Path is doing well doesn't mean competitive's going to. And I don't know where that's coming from, because Ruben has talked about it on his stream. They talked about it in their patch notes with Path of Champions. They've I don't know. It frustrates me because it's created this divide between the two communities.
I totally didn't know that. But I mean, it makes sense though, right? It's like Path of Champions takes off. Literally nothing else happens for 10 months at the rest of the fucking game. Like, what the fuck are they doing? It's weird. It's kind of weird, no? Here, I've wanted to make this video for so long. Check this out. Think of Legends of Runeterra 1 year ago. Think of the things we had. Cross Shard, seasonals coverage, a 4th shard.
The 4th shard was a bad thing, though. Asia.
Yeah.
I don't. It was one more seasonals. It was another
that was bad
fucking
for them.
80.
That was bad for
Yeah.
them.
$80,000.
Asia always
Well.
should have been merged. That both shards were too small individually, and like
All right, maybe I'm taking a straws
Oceania
with this
should
one.
be over there too, because they have to play at ridiculous hours, and it's not fair to them.
Yeah, I don't know. And then like a year later, what do we have? We got fucking the same things, except like now we have Path of Champions, but they used to be labs. Now it's just bigger. But like Cross Shard's gone. Fucking coverage is gone. I guess we lost a shard, which maybe that's not a big deal. But then like, where's in a year? In a fucking year, there's nothing new. Like, that's crazy to me. That's absolutely insane. No. And so that's that's
I
where
do
it comes
agree.
from.
The game's definitely lost things.
Personally, I don't feel
when
quite
when you look at the game.
No, you go ahead.
You go ahead.
I don't feel quite so doomsday as Jason here, but as a company, it does mean that like if they're putting more stuff into Path of Champions, it means they're not allocating those resources to help ranked. So like there's not so much direct competition that like, oh, we only have so much we can do. If we're putting Path of Champions, rank, just throw in the trash. But like it does mean that they aren't putting those same people to help bolster up ranked.
No,
Or not just ranked, but like competitive.
that's totally fair. I just can't get behind the notion of people saying that they're taking away from competitive to give to Path, because I don't think that's true.
No, I just think that like if they're like trying to like bolster up Legendary Runeterra as a whole, and they're bringing in new people, they're saying, "Hey, Path of Champions, we have more players." I don't know if they make more money through Path of Champions or like through like competitive whales essentially. So I don't know what that is.
I don't think you make any money through Path of Champions, do you? Like, you don't even get to pick your own board.
Skins.
I'm saying like I'm saying like the skins, like the Path of Champions players or the competitive players. Like,
Who knows?
Whether the
Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like,
Okay, I think I think this is where the big chasm comes. It's from when they fucking make a video. They're like, "We heard you guys. Fucking PVE is where it's at. We've got you. More Path of Champions. Fuck everything else."
was
That's
10
where it
seconds
comes
of
from.
ranked? Was 10 seconds of competitive video? Is that not good enough?
After 7 fucking months of them being like, "Hold the fuck up. We're gonna learn from our mistakes. We'll be right back in 7 fucking months." And then they come back like, "Hey, guess what? We did learn from our mistakes. We still haven't given you a date for Worlds. We still don't have like anything else. And we're by the way, coverage. Yeah, fuck that." So yeah, I can see where people are coming from. I guess a little bit.
what are you gonna say?
I was just I'll comment on what Jason just said. The communication side of lore has been the most disappointing thing for me.
Yeah.
Like of everything. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm like sad to see coverage go. I'm sad to see the fact that we've generally lost things, not gained things outside of Path. Like, that is sad. But the worst thing for me is the communication, because communication, yes, it's hard because you're talking to like quite literally like over 1 million people at one time when you like put out something. But like the stuff they've done, I look at it and I'm like, you just made everyone mad. That is what you just did. You could have just reworded this a bit. You could have like got ahead of this a while ago. You could have like, there's so many different ways you could have gone about this, and you just made everyone mad. Like, drives me nuts.
It's true.
Like, the communication is the thing that is really bad.
Yeah, that's completely.
And they're working on it.
They've been doing so much better, right? Like, I think we can all agree that the devs have been out there on Twitter. Like, they've been really trying to communicate, and they've been more open in the patch notes and like with what's coming. Clearly, they care about what we have to say because they're bringing LPP in to look at the patches. So they're getting better, right? I think you'd be lying if you sat here and you said that they weren't. But I completely agree that it was incredibly disappointing in the past, because Riot has been a game company that's built their foundation on communicating with their player base. So having such a lack of communication coming from the Legends of Runeterra team was definitely disappointing.
Yeah, we
I
hit
think
this weird black hole for a while.
Mm-hmm.
There's just nothing. And then it was like, "Hey guys, wait. Beginning of next year, it's all coming." So we all held our breath. And for like fucking 7 or 8 months. And then it came and like, "Yeah, we got nothing." Like, what the fuck? Like, how is that even possible? Like, what have you guys been doing? Anyway, I went for the record though, I'm not doom and gloom, and I'm actually really fucking excited, because I think starting next week, shit's gonna pop the fuck up. We got 2.5 weeks to seasonals. It's gonna be wild. That's the best, right? It's gonna be absolutely crazy. New meta, race to seasonals. That's gonna be a really exciting seasonals as well, because like no one fucking knows. No one really knows what's gonna happen. It'll be exciting top 32 because it's still gonna be pretty fucking fresh, right? It's the weekend after. What is that? That's 3.5 weeks, with a new, and you know how it is when it gets to top 32. So that's all gonna be exciting. And then right after that, we get the first set of, after having all the regions with like Jin and shit, which looks so cool. And it seems like they're just pushing the game in new directions. So like that's like a solid month and a half. And then we get that for another month. So that's like 2 months right there of fucking hype that's coming at us, which goddamn we needed so badly. I'm here for it. So no, I am very excited for it, and I agree. I think they've been doing a lot better since I don't know, earlier this month or last month.
Yeah, I think there was a point where they were trying to get people hired on, and that we saw them communicating a little bit, and then they went silent for a little bit. And since they've had like the new hires and the new people on board, they've been quite open on Twitter and whatnot. But sorry, CardGamer, I cut you off there.
You're all good. I mean, I was kind of agree with kind of a lot of the sentiment you both were having, where, like, yes, there's a lot of stuff I want out of Riot, but also at the same time, I understand it. And I'm especially willing to be forgiving with all they're doing now, and especially if they do it well and start going about things right now. Because one thing we've touched on a bit before on this podcast, I believe, is how Runeterra isn't, like, just now recently, it kind of fully became a complete game. They released all of the base of the game. And I mean, it can be kind of hard to really set up your competitive scene, set up a lot of different things when you're still kind of establishing what you want the core of your game set to be. So if they do everything right moving forward, I'm definitely willing to give them a lot of forgiveness. But I think it is fair, and I think we should call them out on the stuff they've done wrong, because they have done stuff wrong. And we want them to get better, right? So.
As long as we're constructive in the way we're calling them out, I think there's like a big issue with our community and just saying this fucking sucks, but not saying why or like how.
But it does fucking suck. Oh, sorry.
I think the key distinction and like the big thing that I've always tried to advocate on Twitter and in like all the Discords we're a part of is when you're giving feedback, be constructive. Say like, this is why I don't like it. This is where I think it could be better. Here's how I would change it. Don't just bitch and moan and be, this is bad. It doesn't do anything.
I actually want to make one slight addendum to that. Don't suggest how to make it better if you don't know. Like, it's not our job to fix the game. It's our job to point out what's wrong with the game and explain why we don't like it. But I mean, a lot of people have bad changes.
That's true.
You shouldn't always share your
a lot of people do have bad changes.
You're
right. I was like, guys, fucking best one's a joke. You get best of 3 ladder up here, and they were like, PvE. No, figure it out. Look, man, I was the biggest defender of Riot for a long time, but I still am. In that they have a lot of goodwill. It's a lot different than like if Watsi was like, "Hey, we do something good." I'm like, "Yeah, do like 10 more fucking good things, and then we'll talk." Whereas if Riot's like, "Hey, we see the light," like, "Yes, we're back. Let's go!" Like, this is what we wanted. I fell off when I was like, "Okay, look, this is what happened with competitive. This is what you can do to make it better." 7 months later, you fucking like gave me the middle finger and like was like, no one. But that happens. It's also here's a big thing: corporations are gigantic, right? They're so big. There's so many people with various ideas. Like, there's 6 of us on this fucking podcast, and like we can't even agree on like what tier 0 or tier 1 is, right? Like, we all got different ideas, different thoughts, different theories. And now imagine that like times 100 or 1,000, and it's tough. And when different people come into different positions, things ebb and flow. There's like a saying. What is it? It's like weak people make hard times make strong people make good times make weak people, is like the fucking cycle that you see in the world. Maybe I butchered it, but I think that's what it is.
Something like that.
You see that at companies also. So Wizards of the Coast is a good example. They had some good people in. They built up their organized play. It was fucking fantastic. Those people ended up being promoted or moving on or leaving or whatever. Blizzard may be another good example. And then other people they just hired from outside, just other people that weren't Magic players or whatever, and then it's sort of going back down again. And to the point where it fucking just crashed into the floor, and people like me and Majin just left after fucking years. And now they hired one of the like best players of all time, one of the most respected members of the community, and all of a sudden like they're back on the uptick and people are liking them again and they're doing a bunch of good changes, and then it'll happen again. Those people will move on, will do other things, it'll ebb and flow, and we're going to see that in LoR, and I feel like we kind of are, like when we're talking about them cleaning house and some people leaving and some people coming in, and that's just how it goes. So I don't know, things to keep in mind as we go through that. It's like not one person. Like when we talk about communications, for instance, it's like, I know some of the communications people, they're really good at their jobs, but sometimes they have to communicate shit that probably not what they want to be communicating, or that they think is a good idea. And so it's not just like one person. It's not just,
it's a company at the end of the day, right? Yeah. Like, it's not a single individual. It's a group of, it's not even a group of people. It's a company. It's a business. They're going to say what they want to say, and they're going to make their people say what they want the community to hear, whether it's the right thing to say to the community or not. If they think it's correct, they're going to broadcast it. So,
yeah, here's a crazy one that we haven't talked about in a while. You guys think LoR is making money?
Probably.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think so.
Yeah.
Probably.
I don't think it's like making bank, but I think it's making money.
I honestly don't know.
What has it been historically?
No idea.
So
Does anyone know?
I have no idea. If I had to guess, I would imagine Legends of Runeterra doesn't. It might make money or like just be. It might make money or break even. I'd expect it to be a little bit losing, but I would imagine it's mainly a way to get players into the league IP and retain players in the league IP. Like I probably would not be involved with like League of Legends at all really right now if I wasn't playing Runeterra still. I probably would just be doing other stuff as my hobbies and free time. But I play
Yeah,
Runeterra, so I'm still invested in League still.
Yeah, and I've never been in any League IP, and now here I am just waiting for this MMO to come out so I can sell my fucking soul to it for forever. Can't wait. Hit the fighting game on the way, boop boop, and yeah, so it's definitely worth it for them. Like there's a lot of fucking smart people there. I mean, look at the stuff they fucking made. Look at Arcane, look at Valorant, TFT, look at LoR. Like they're killing it.
Don't look at Rune King.
Oh, was
Event,
that?
not the game.
I never played any of that stuff. I thought it got good reviews.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Sorry, the game was fine. The Riot event
Oh yeah.
that went through multiple games, such as like League of Legends, CFE had something. The Ruin King event
was
crashed and burned, and everyone hated it.
That's
Arcane is the good way they did a lore event.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, the Rune King event, the lore was just horrendous, right? Like, didn't they have like a whole script of Rengar just meowing or something?
The general consensus is that like the lore was written to be more of a cash grab
Yeah.
than internally consistent with the existing world. They left out a lot of important characters, and they put in a lot of characters that are going to sell League of Legends skins.
I think
Was this like before my time?
No, this was
is like
Viego release.
right around Arcane.
This
is
Yeah, when Viego came
Yeah,
out.
Huh.
this
Mhm.
coincided with the Viego release. Yeah,
yeah, it coincided with that.
it was
yeah.
like
3 days
there was a
before.
big lore event in the League client, and like you could complete missions and like unlock different lore nodules and like go through it and all this stuff. And the lore was just garbage. And I'm pretty sure I've seen posts from the writers that wrote the lore that said that like they weren't happy with what they put out, but they had to put it out because that's what Riot wanted. Don't quote me on that.
Interesting.
I think a big issue with the Ruined King event was like all the hype it had. And it was supposed to be something for so long and do so much to like tie things together, and then they changed it to cash grab.
That's definitely
Like-
true. Like
Spirit Blossom kind of had a similar feel with like cheesy, like it was like a dating sim almost, and it was like cheesy. But
Yeah,
like,
but like Spirit
it wasn't
Blossom didn't have like
marketed as
8 years of build up.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
like-
Right? It was allowed to be that.
when Hecarim was released, we were like, man, who's this king that he's talking about? Then we got the item, the Blade of the Ruin King. Then Mordekaiser got his rework, and we got a little bit more lore. There was just more lore teasers here. And then we finally get the event. Viego shows up, and it's just garbage.
He's shirtless and sad.
My queen.
Okay, kids. Well, it's been about an hour. Anyone have any closing words or topics or anything they want to touch on before we go?
You know what? I actually wanted to touch briefly on how do you guys manage tilt? Because this is something that really affected me in my fight night run yesterday. I was, for unrelated reasons or for other reasons, I have not been in the best mental state, and I started making misplays, and they just spiral out of control. And that first set went into the second set, and then I didn't get a chance to step away. And if you guys saw my run, you could see how tilted I was, and you could definitely see that I wasn't playing properly. So I think it would be beneficial for all of us and for our viewers as well, just to hear how you guys deal with tilt while you're playing, especially in an event that you can't get up and walk away from, like a fight night.
I mean, something.
You
So something that I think about is that there's a difference between losing the game because you played badly and losing because they got like the cards just weren't in your favor, you got lucky. And so sometimes it's helpful to think, okay, I played well. They just got lucky. I just didn't draw what I needed to. And sometimes if you're in a bad mental state where you're making misplays, you can even just lie to yourself and say, I played well and it was just lucky, and not so much for the sense like if you want to reflect, you should focus and say, I misplayed, here's what I should do next time. But if you're in the moment, you can just say, it was just luck, I'm fine, and just get ready for the next game. Don't dwell on the fact that you messed up, because that can be a very vicious cycle of just thinking, I played badly, I should have done this, and just thinking about the misplay throughout your next set.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, it's Go ahead, Jason. Your viewer.
No, you go.
I was going to say that for me, it's that card games are math. It's just a bunch of math for me. It's fun math, but it's math. And so, like, in the end of the day, like, if I didn't go with the math and I got punished for it, essentially, it's because I didn't sit and think about it enough, or I didn't recognize something, or I didn't see it correctly, or whatever. And it's not like I'm therefore bad. It's like, okay, so I need to work on that better, and then I can move on. Because, like, it's just basically, this kind of goes outside of just, like, how to deal with tilt and card games. This is kind of like a life thing. Mm-hmm. Mistakes don't reflect on you. It's just something you need to work on, but it doesn't mean you're a bad person. Like, it doesn't mean you did something wrong. It doesn't mean you're like some terrible thing or whatever. It just means you got something to work on. Everyone does.
Bro, you better not come to better not come to the pro team. Let me tell you, make a mistake though. You're like, you are garbage human. Okay, why are you even alive right now? We cutthroat up there. Let me tell you. Okay, I love these topics because like the mental. I love anything that has to do with like mental fortitude or like the mental game within the game. It's fucking amazing. It's like it's really deep. There's a reason sports psychology is one of the like largest booming sectors of fucking sports medicine. So I was a professional poker player for a long time. Tilt is a killer. If you want tilt, you just lose all your fucking money. Like, let me tell you, that cuts into your bottom line.
Yep.
So you can't do it. It's unacceptable. And like, there's like almost like a code of like conduct that like, you just like if you tilt, like you're weak. But everyone does. It happens to everybody. How you deal with it is what's important, basically. And so in card games, one of the ways that I found that was really, really helpful for me, there's a couple. One, though, like you're talking about, Monty, when you're in the game, like, man, I see that when you fucking punt, when you make a mistake, like just especially a bad one, and it just fucking eats at you. And you're like, I should be winning this fucking game. Everyone's fucking watching me right now. And then, like, you just start to really unravel or let go. The way that I get over this is, have you ever, like, so this happens for Magic players all the time, where, like, I don't know, for whatever reason, someone will, like, take over a game for you, or you'll take over a game for them. They have to go to the bathroom, perhaps. It was a common one. Or for whatever, they have to answer the phone or some shit. You're just like, hey, play this game for me. You'll just, like, sit down and be like, okay, let's see what's going on here. And you're like, wow, how the fuck did they get in this spot? Some terrible spot. Doesn't matter how bad the spot is. You don't give a fuck. You didn't play that game. There's nothing on it for you. You're just like, all right, let's see if I can pull a fucking rabbit out of a hat here. We got 1 in 100. Let's see. Let's go. It's game time. And you feel like almost like energized by it. It's a challenge. Like, great. So anytime I make a mistake, I immediately like, this is like, I like wipe the slate clear. And I'm like, I just got dropped into this game right here, right now. I don't know anything about what happened earlier. It wasn't me. I wasn't playing. I didn't make a mistake. Nothing happened. Doesn't fucking matter either. Nothing you can do about it right now. All it is like, now we're here, a new game. Let's have some fun. Like, be in that kind of mindset. And like, hey, I'm gonna try my best to win this game from here. And I've pulled out all kinds of fucking games because I'm really good at punting, and I'm not so bad at also trying to pull games out and keeping like my head together. So that's one. Another one is in between rounds. It's a little bit easier. So I remember very distinctly when I won this Magic Grand Prix was online, and I took like a pretty crushing loss right before top 8. I've been playing for like 2 fucking days against the best players on the planet, and like I'm like one win away from like making the top cut, and I lose, and like I'm still in contention. But it's like it was a tough loss. Maybe I even made a mistake. I went sat outside. Got some like air. It's good to move around, move your body. I had a friend that even used to do push-ups against the wall or fucking whatever he could. Mm-hmm. So I went and sat outside, and I was like, fuck, man. Like, I'm going to do it. Like, is this what's going to happen again? I'm going to spend 2 days of my life trying to chase this fucking dream, kind of get nowhere. And like I could be doing anything else. I could be with friends. I could be with family. I could be like reading a fucking book. I'm like, why do I do this to myself? And I thought about it. I'm like, am I having fun? Like, am I enjoying myself? Is this what I like to do? And the answer was yes. And if the answer is ever fucking no, then you should get the fuck out and go do something else. But I was like, yeah. I was like, I really like this. I love competing against the fucking best players. Like, you know what? I just took a hard loss and it sucked. But, like, I also just kind of love it. Like, that fucking thrill, that competition. And I was like, all right, well, I'm fucking shake it off, get back in there. I got another fucking round to go. I was like, all right, let's go. And, like, I was able to, so get outside, move around, clear your fucking head. I do that even when I win rounds. So I get out and like kind of reset, like get focused again. And And another one for like sort of in the same sort of vein with like the mental game within the game is when I won this huge fucking 1,000-person Grand Prix tournament in Vancouver. Every single round for about 6 rounds in a row, before the round would start, I'd start imagining telling all my friends how like I lost before the round even started. I was like, I'd be like, oh, you know what? Like 8-3 or whatever the fuck, 11-3. Like that's a really, just one round away from top 8. Like that was really good. Or like I was about to make top 8, and I'm like, like I made top 8. I was thinking I'm going to lose. I'm like, at least I made top 8 though. Like that's really good. And I'm going to the top 4. I'm like, I was better than the last time I made top 8 and I lost first round. Like, I did better. And every single round, I just imagined losing and explaining to the people I cared about, like making excuses about how I fucking lost before the match had even started. It's not just the fucking gathering. Your opponent gets mana screwed like 20% of the time as you get to play the game. I'm already like, nope, I'm losing here. And just it's subconscious. And it has to do with your mind wanting you to get the fuck out of stressful, anxiety-driven situations, even if that's self-sabotage. Just get you the fuck out of there. Because you know how it is. If you're playing like under like hundreds or thousands of people are watching you, or like whatever, you're trying to make top cut, whatever the fuck that's important to you, your anxiety's going crazy, your heart's going nuts, fucking sweating, like you're like close to cardiac arrest, probably close to it, right? And so your brain is trying to get you the fuck out of there, just wants you out of that situation, and that's why you start self-sabotaging yourself. And I had to mentally be like, shut the fuck up, like you don't know what the fuck's gonna happen. Let's calm the fuck down. Just play some goddamn good Magic. Just go play your best. That's it. Just try. Just ignore everything else. And for 6 rounds in a row, and I had never noticed how brutal that was, and like how much I had to fight against it. So the game within the game, very important. Last one. Another really important one. Do you ever go on tilt when you lose on the ladder? You lose the one on the ladder, maybe you lose 2, and you just get pissed off.
Yeah.
You're like mad. You go on tilt. Yeah, you're not playing as good. This is how I like to combat that. The faster that you can get back into a learning mindset and start playing your A game and continue climbing, the faster you're going to start climbing. And it's a fucking arms race, right? We're all climbing against each other. You better believe I'm up at like midnight or 1 a.m. fucking grinding games, trying to fucking pass you on the ladder. You better believe fucking Majin is, Kever is, lots of people are. So if you're going to get pissed off for 4 or 5 fucking hours, guess what? I'm just going to be there fucking climbing ahead. So whoever can get back to a learning mindset and back to fucking play their A game and climbing, like that's the person that's going to win in the long run. And so I always ask myself, like how strong are you? How weak are you? Like how good do you think you are? Like how fast can you fucking control yourself and get back at the mission at hand? And I'm like, it becomes like a challenge, and I like rise to that. I'm like, yeah, fucking get together. It's one game. Calm the fuck down. Get back in there. Let's go. And that really helps me. I love all this shit. Okay, sorry, I rambled for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, so I'll go real quick. I'm not great at managing tilt on ladder, so I'm not even going to tackle that. I'm just going to go into tournaments. I think that was what your question was primarily talking about anyways, but my whole thing with tournaments is, at least like me personally, I get pretty anxious before tournaments and stuff, so it takes a lot for me to like get myself ready to play a tournament. And at that point, at least like that, like putting in that work to get there, at least helps me get in this mindset where the only thing I am here to do is I am here to win this tournament. So I don't care what is happening. I don't care if I misplayed. I don't care if I got high rolled. I don't care if my hand is literal unplayable garbage. I'm going to look at every turn, every time I get a priority, and I'm going to say what is my best play, and I'm going to look for my win con, and I'm going to try and play to it. And once I scrub out, once I win, once I get knocked out top 8, once I lose on breakers, then I can be pissed and complain and tell my teammates the bad beat stories and be angry. But until that point, if I'm getting upset, even if I'm like overly celebrating, I'm just taking mental energy away from winning. And I want to do everything in my power to prevent that. And I just always have that goal in mind. And it helps me stay a bit more level-headed, at least for the event. Obviously, it takes a lot out of you. Takes a lot out of me, but it definitely helps me stay in that mindset for the events. Like, I played tournaments, like, my hand on my mouse, like, completely shaking. My mouse, like, moving across the screen as I play cards. But I'm thinking through every play and, like, level-headed to an extent, you know? Just because I try and hold that mindset.
I'll go real quick as well. For ladder settings, every time I make a mistake on ladder, sure I lose 15 LP, but I see that 15 LP as a cost for me to never really make that mistake again, which I think it's worth. You know, like, okay, maybe you shouldn't play this card, but you played it. Sure, you lose 15 or 25 LP, but then you tell yourself that you'll never do it again, and that's worth forever. And for tournament settings, you're on like the screen for a reason, and people are watching you because, like, for a reason, like you're the one that's playing, not them. And that's what I tell myself every time when I feel nervous on stream, and I'll feel way better. And even though I misplay on stream, then same thing with the ladder approach, the same thing, like, okay, I make a mistake on stream, that's fine. I'll never do it again, and I'll feel way better.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. That was good. That was good advice. I appreciate it. I guess I'll recap my own strategies because I do have some. Monday was just particularly bad. Like most of you, I just kind of try and push it off while I'm in the moment. Obviously, it doesn't always work. Sometimes you're just too invested in the game. You're a little bit, and it gets to you. And then you reflect on. But while you're there, while you're sitting there, like CardGamer said, you're there to win. So you just push it off. You think, what can I do? Okay, I screwed up. How can I go from here to find the winning line now? And then ladder, I just take a break after 3 losses in a row. Ladder doesn't bug me. LP is fake. I'm not too affected by that one, but yeah.
Years of League of Legends has steeled you for ladder.
I guess so. But then I'm the other thing a couple of us touched on, overly winning and putting yourself in a mindset like where you're too hyping yourself up. That's also a big detriment that can get to a lot of people, and I know I've suffered from that as well. So I'm kind of glad that we brought that one up because it's not really something that's talked about. People always bring up tilt, but that's rarely something that's brought up, but it is something that exists. So yeah, thanks guys.
Being overconfident.
Yeah, being overconfident and just like after you go on like a hot streak and be like, I'm the shit, like I can't get taken down. You know, you just start playing recklessly because you're like, they don't have it. They never have it.
I mean, also just like we've all seen those games and fight nights, like deep in seasonal runs where you're watching and someone's just like winning in a favored matchup. You know, they're in that comfy spot. It's like, oh, there's no way you ever lose from this spot. And they play sloppy. They don't take every percentage point they can. And all of a sudden it's like 2-3 turns later and it's like, wait, are you losing the set? Like, you know, it's a real threat.
Yeah. I'm glad we
It is.
touched on this. This was good. Thanks.
All right, everybody. That's it for us this week. We'll be back next week, and I guess we'll have the patch notes by then. Fucking exciting, man! I can't wait to chat with you guys about all. I can't believe that they're making Twisted Fate 2 mana. Crazy stuff. Okay, we'll see you guys again next week. Take care.